In the worst of the pandemic, we saw people appropriately very frightened to come to the emergency room and stayed home with heart attacks. And then when they came to the emergency room, they were extremely ill.
I understand why people have been concerned and scared to come into the hospital, but I think that we have seen some people who've waited maybe a little bit longer than they should have to come in. And I think that on some level we could have prevented some things.
We know that heart disease doesn't wait until it's convenient, and heart disease doesn't wait until the end of a pandemic. We live in a different world now.
I think it is a very bad idea to defer cardiac care because cardiac disease will kill you. It's serious. It is as serious as COVID. It is as life-threatening, if not more.
We've had so many examples of patients that just waited too long during the pandemic to come in for urgent cardiac situations, and then they come in very, very sick, and it's a challenge to rescue them.
People want to know, should I come in next week for my test, or should I delay it, for 3 months from now? And my answer is we don't know what the world is going to look like 3 months from now. And so if you need that test, I think it's important to do it now.
So when people have chest pain or shortness of breath or have any symptoms, the safest thing for them to do is to seek care.
They notice that their feet are getting cooler or they're having increased discomfort. We would really encourage them to call our offices so that we can get them worked up quickly.
There may be more risk now to not doing something than staying away because of the fear of COVID. And that's important because it's really, really true.
I think that right now is actually a good time to be coming into the hospital.
From the moment they check in, either in the office or at the hospital, to where they're escorted to for their procedure, we've really thought through every step of the way.
We've taken a lot of steps to ensure the patients are safe and healthy, and the staff are safe and healthy. Every morning they check our temperature on the way in. We test every patient prior to the procedure coming into the hospital.
We are using all the protective equipment that we can.
Appointment times are staggered.
So even our intensive care units are completely separated into COVID and into non-COVID units.
And there are set-aside operating rooms for the COVID patients.
There is Purell everywhere.
There's even people sitting at the elevators who will press the buttons for you and wipe them down immediately after.
Look, we were always careful and always cleaned offices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But with COVID, it's even more than ever.
In the middle of March, I felt nervous coming to the hospital, and I do not have those concerns at all anymore. I have more concerns going to the grocery store than coming to work.
The pandemic was a once-in-a-century event, and leaders, came forth.
We've seen people volunteer to work in the COVID ICUs who were in critical care positions, cardiologists and others. Remember, we learned as we went along because nobody really knew, but people did not shirk away. People realized that this is what they trained for and this is what they're here for, and they stepped up quickly. It was inspiring.
It's been eye-opening to see the community come together. I think even though we've had to social distance, I feel almost that we're even closer.
There's like a section on my bike route where people are banging pots and pans, and I think it's really inspiring and really nice to see that appreciation.
And I guess the one thing I look forward most when I meet a new patient is shaking their hand.
I'm a big hugger, and my patients know they look forward to the hugs for every visit and seeing what shoes I'm wearing. So those two things I want to get back to, hugging my patients and wearing fancy shoes to work.
A lot of why people got into being physicians is that not only emotional but physical connection. It's easier when you're seeing someone in person and holding their hand or touching their shoulder. So I think as silly as this may sound, I miss giving my patients hugs.